And if they don't really love what they're doing, if they're not passionate about who they're serving in the same way that an athlete needs to be passionate about the game they're playing, they'll eventually leave, they'll eventually be burnt out. Or if they're trying to serve somewhere where they might love what they're doing, but they're not gifted in that specific area of what they're doing, they're gonna get burnt out because they don't feel effective at, in this case,
Discover Your Spiritual Gifts is a new online Bible study we have created here at Place Ministries to help people discover their spiritual gifts and meditate on how to understand them and see them in their own lives. For almost 30 years, my dad has sat down with thousands of people around the world and heard an overwhelming desire for believers to not just know their gifts, but to understand them. This study is for them. This study is for you, to equip your people and to encourage your people, and to show them how God has been, can be, and will continue to use them through their spiritual gifts.
Hey y'all, welcome to the My Place podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm your host, Mary McSwain, and I'm joined, as I normally am, by my dad, Jay McSwain.
And Mary, it's good to be with you tonight. You look nice. Is that black and blue or black and then blue?
It is black and blue, which is somewhat controversial, but we went with it today. It was warm.
I think it looks, because it is very cold outside.
It was very cold, and we had a workshop today, so we had a lot of people.
Yes,
here.
we did. And I don't know about you, but I am a little tired tonight.
I am a little bit too. Insider knowledge for y'all, we are filming this at night. We often film at night just with our schedules. There's lots of other things going on during the week. And so we have had a full day, but it was a really good day.
Yeah, we had to, we couldn't even, you had to get an extra chair because we filled up the room, which is always good to have a full room. And we had great people. And it was just, and then we go again tomorrow, all day with them tomorrow. So it's pretty cool. We've done, how many have we done of these 2-day trainings now together?
A lot.
Maybe 10 together so far. But tonight we're filming this and pretty exciting about the subject matter we're going to talk about, isn't it?
I was just thinking as you were talking about the workshop, we've done 10 or 12 together. You've done a lot more over the years. I won't date you, but you've done them for a while. What is your favorite part about having people come in for a place training?
I think the thing that is most enjoyable for me is they come in thinking that place is one thing, and when they leave, I think they see it in an entirely different, it's not what they expected. And I think the way that takes place is that we've learned how to make the elements, PLACE, come alive for people and for them to be able to almost experience them for themselves in a way that even if they've done it in their church, they haven't experienced it. I think that's the most, and I also, I love when people walk in and they don't know each other because we keep them small. When they walk in, they don't know each other. And by tomorrow, you're gonna think that they've known each other for years. Tomorrow, we talked a little bit today with some of them, who they have passion for and why. And then we're going to pick that back up in the morning. And that helps people see people. So I think those are some of my and doing them with you now.
Oh,
yes,
thanks.
I've done a lot pre-married, but I do like doing them with you. And it makes it easier on me too.
Well, good. I'm glad I can help.
Good.
Tonight, we are piggybacking off of last week's episode. So if y'all missed last week's episode, I highly encourage you to go back and watch it after this, now, and come back to this episode, whatever's easiest for you. But we talked last week about how your spiritual gifts don't always tell you where to serve in church. They don't always tell you where to serve the Lord. They don't always tell you that. They give you a better indicator oftentimes of how you will serve, how you may serve in light of how you're gifted. What I want us to talk about tonight then is, how do you identify where to serve or who to serve? If your spiritual gifts don't tell you that, if a spiritual gift assessment alone can't tell you that, what else could identify for someone if they're looking at where to serve in a church? They have moved, they're at a new church, they have no idea where to start, they're a new believer, they've never served in church, they have no idea what to do or where to start, or they have spare time in a new season of their life. And again, they just don't know where to start. They want to give their time away. They want to find their life as they give it away, as the paraphrase goes from Matthew 16:25, but they're not exactly sure where to start or who to start with. So to start off, piggybacking again off of last week's episode, how could someone misinterpret their spiritual gifts as an indication of where they should serve?
Well, let's just take a big broad, let's say somebody has the gift of teaching. And you'd say, okay, they need to be teaching. But you and I talked about this even before we hit play over here. Where do they need to be teaching? Some people, like, you've heard me do it's funny, you sitting there and say, I've heard this one again. There's a reason that I like to lead. So I don't look at myself as the gift of teaching, but I like to lead. But what I've found is that I like to lead small groups. So my where is not big groups. I know a lot of people probably think this is crazy, but I don't get as energized speaking to large groups as much as I do to smaller groups where I can look everybody in the eye and move around. When you're in a big group, you can't do that with everyone. So even though I may lead, and again, I always say, what I do in our trainings, it's not teaching, it's leading people to see how God created them so they can be and do all God created them for in life and ministry. But the where, you have to start evaluating, do I get more energized and am I more effective? And for me, I feel like I'm more effective in a smaller group than I am a larger group. Some people teaching. Let's take teaching. Let's say your church does a spiritual gift assessment, and you come up really high on teaching. And let's say you have a subject matter. Let's say the first century church, and you start talking to one of the people in the church that connects people into various teaching roles in the church, and they met with you 2 or 3, 4 times. And you can wax eloquently in articulating first century. You may be able to wax eloquently on the history of the church. And they just feel like, wow. And you took a spiritual gift assessment. And you scored highest in teaching. So where's that leader going to think you'd be good? Where would you say?
As a teacher?
Teaching. But where would you be best teaching? It might not be with 30 people in a group where you lecture. You may be really good at just interacting and giving information as a teaching role. But when you get in front of people and you have to organize your thoughts, it's not there for you. And you know what's interesting, I find? When I'm just doing like one-on-one or like when we're doing this a lot of times, I find that I talk a lot faster than when I get up in front of a lot of people. I find that I talk slower. And really, it sometimes can seem like it drags. But when I'm one-on-one, I never have a problem. So just because I have the gift of leadership, or I don't have the gift of teaching, you really got to ask that question where. I'll give you another one. Barbara, who has worked with us for 25 years, if you looked at her place profile, she has the gift of teaching and she has a passion for kids. So you're saying, okay, we'll put her as a second grade teacher. But here's where the problem comes in. She doesn't like the chaos with second-year-olds, with second graders. So if you put her in that classroom, she's going to not be passionate. I heard her tell me one time, I will help get the curriculum because I want to be part of the teaching. I'll help get the curriculum. She's conventional. She has the gift of administration. So I'll go into the resource room and I'll make sure that those resources are amazingly organized and teachers know exactly where to get what they need. But put me in front of 12 little second graders and all the chaos, and I just, so there's a lot, Mary, there's so many questions and things you have to consider of showing people the where. And sometimes it is cut and dried, but sometimes it's not.
And that is the value of looking past just a spiritual gift assessment, which you've written a lot of widely circulated articles about that, of how there is value in a spiritual gift assessment, but it is not the end all be all to discovering where the Lord wants you to give your time away or what he might have for you, because there's a lot of other factors involved with the PLACE assessment. PLACE is an acronym for the 5 different parts of the assessment: personality discovery, learning spiritual gifts, abilities awareness, connecting passion with ministry, and experiences of life. And the value of looking at all 5 of those elements individually, but also interconnectedly, is that you don't just look at your personality, or you don't just look at your spiritual gifts. You don't just look at your passions or your life experiences. Because like you were saying, if you only looked at your spiritual gifts, it might tell you how you'd like to serve. It doesn't always tell you who you'd like to serve, or it doesn't always indicate the more specific elements of who you are that are going to have a great deal of impact on your experience while you're serving. Like someone who is conventional, which is a person who likes structure and order. Someone who is conventional in a chaotic environment is probably not going to be fulfilled serving in that environment. And it's not because they're not getting to pursue the people they're passionate about. Maybe they're even getting to use their spiritual gifts, but their abilities, the environment that they thrive in, is not matching up with the place that they're serving in. And there's even one of the things I was thinking about is someone that I taught at my church in the group that we took through last fall. And him and his wife both work in banking, finance. And he was of the two, I could tell he was the more reserved. He was a C personality. And at the end of the 3rd week, when we got through teaching on I think it was at the end of the 2nd week, they had already taken the spiritual gift assessment and he had the gift of teaching. And he told me afterwards, he said, I don't know if that's right. That's just, I don't like being in front of people. I don't like talking in front of crowds. I don't really think I'm a teacher. And I told him, wait till next week. We'll talk a little more about your spiritual gifts, but don't be too discouraged, because there's a reason why, and there's a way to still use that, even if you don't like speaking in front of people or in front of large crowds. And that could be the same of lots of the gifts, but teaching is such a great example that the spiritual gift of teaching implies oftentimes a role where you're speaking in front of a small to large crowd, and not everyone is comfortable with that. But people with the spiritual gift of teaching, they are articulate. They're good at communicating in a clear and concise way. Nothing about that says they're good at teaching classes. It just says that they're good communicators. They're very articulate. That could be helpful if they're teaching a large group. That could be helpful if they're facilitating a small group. And it could especially be helpful if they're talking to someone one-on-one. And I think as a banker, this gentleman, he was very articulate about the subject knowledge that he was passionate about finances and advising people. Come to learn later, he was on the finance team at our church. So he was very good at articulating finances in a room where he could add value in that way, and he could communicate in a very clear and concise way. So I think the way that our spiritual gifts can sometimes mislead us is if we think that they imply we should be serving here, as opposed to understanding that they tell us how, they don't always tell us where.
I want to add something that I see happen a lot of times in churches, a lot of times. So people look at someone has a life experience. So they fill out the PLACE profile, and one of their life experiences is divorce. And the church is trying to put together, there's a program, really good program called Divorce Care. and it's for people who've been through a divorce. And let's just say that a person is really articulate, they really command an audience, and they can lead people. So, okay, you've had a life experience of divorce, so you must have a passion for the divorce. You're articulate, so wow, you'd be great to lead the divorce care. You've been through it, you understand it, you're good at speaking and leading other people. But guess what? They get a participation trophy with mercy. And a lot of times people that are going through those very, very painful, tragic times, and they're not too far on it, they need a lot of mercy. But I see churches do this all the time. Just because somebody has a life experience and maybe they're good at leading something, then they just assume, well, that would be where you would be good serving. And this, a lot of this, the where part, Mary, it still goes back to you got to listen to somebody's story. You got to hear their passion when they talk about, like, when opportunities are given to them. You've got to listen to see if you see their passion in it. Just because somebody's been through something, there may be a good chance that somebody that has the gift of teaching, and maybe they are merciful, that they would be really good at divorce care if they've been through that, had that life experience. I know a lady in our church that has taught it, and she's excellent. But I could name you other people that have been through it, been through divorce, and that's not where they want to be.
So we've talked a little bit about how your spiritual gifts don't always indicate where you should serve. And we've mentioned the different elements of the place profile. But if someone listening to this is trying to figure out where they can help other people serve based off of getting to know them, maybe through the place profile, or if someone is listening to this as an individual and they're trying to figure out, okay, so if I go take the spiritual gift assessment, if I go take the place assessment, if my spiritual gifts don't tell me where to serve, where else am I supposed to look?
And you know what the obvious answer to that is? Go look at who you have passion for. Like for me, my passion areas are ministers, college students, and young singles. And I am very, very clear on my why that they are. And so I'm looking for opportunities. Even that's why Place was developed, so that I could have an opportunity to serve ministers by creating a tool that has allowed me to come and support them. So the answer I think you're asking for is the where, is look at your passion. Look at who you have passion. And what you got to do is make sure that the way a ministry then incorporates you is in line with your gifting. So that's the how. But the where is more in line with who do you have passion for?
So looking at who someone has passion for can indicate where they should serve, who they should serve. And when we say serve, we're talking about maybe it's where you get connected in your church. Maybe it's where you choose to give your spare time to your community, to the people.
Where you're intentional and where you would engage.
Yes. And in addition to just understanding, okay, I know how through my gifts, I know where, I know who through my passions, but what are the consequences of why it matters? Why does it matter? Why can't someone just go say yes to anything? Because as long as they're serving somewhere, they're being obedient. So it shouldn't really matter. I don't need to put in all the work. I don't need to take all of this self-reflective time to figure out like my gifts and who I'm passionate about and do all this deep work. As long as I'm serving, I'm being obedient. What's the why behind being so intentional about where you serve, where you give your time?
Because if it's areas that you don't have passion for, you may in the short term say yes. But I think people make decisions. We've talked about this a lot in these episodes. People make decisions unconsciously and don't even know why. And what I believe countless people, scores of people do, is that it doesn't fit with who they are. and then they make up a reason of why they have to get out of it. So if you don't get in the right place, then you're going to eventually blame it on something that's not the real reason. My job is taking too much of my time. I'm traveling too much. I've got all these obligations with my family. And they make good, they come up with good, I just don't want to do it. Or, I don't want to give the time. They come up with good things like, who's going to argue with, my family? I need to spend more time with my family. When that's really not the reason why. The reason why people are quitting is that they're not doing it based on who they are, and they just said yes. And then when they lose their passion, we talk about this verse a lot in place. Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, your passion, for it is the wellspring of life. The knowing the why, which shows you the where and also the how. If you don't get them lined up, not only the where, but the how, and understand the why, if you go in places that you're not passionate about, if you're going into places you're not effective at, you're not desiring to be, you're going to find, I'm circling now, I'm just kind of saying the same thing. You're going to find a reason to quit, and it's probably not going to be the real reason why you're quitting.
As you were talking about that, I was thinking about how common burnout is amongst high school and young student athletes nowadays because they work so hard at such a young age. You start them so young, and there's so much conversation about kids burning out before they get to college, before they even finish high school. And for athletes growing up, a lot of times people will tell them, if you don't love the sport, don't play it in college, because at that point it consumes so much of your time. Mm-hmm. It's basically a job. It's not just that you can, it's also like, do you want to? And as you were talking about that, thinking about an athlete that was good at a sport but didn't love the sport, wasn't passionate about the sport. And if they're giving their time that is voluntary, they don't have to be playing that sport. But if they're giving a sport to something that they can do but they don't love, eventually they're going to burn out because they don't want to give their time there anymore. Or if they're playing a sport that maybe they really enjoy or wish they could enjoy, but they're not very good at it because they don't have the gifting that would enable them to play that sport at the level they want to play, they probably will get burnt out. They'll probably leave eventually. And I think about that in a similar parallel to people serving in church. They're giving their spare time. When they serve the Lord, they're giving their spare time. They're intentionally choosing to spend their time in this way. And if they don't really love what they're doing, if they're not passionate about who they're serving in the same way that an athlete needs to be passionate about the game they're playing, they'll eventually leave. They'll eventually be burnt out. Or if they're trying to serve somewhere where they might love what they're doing, but they're not gifted in that specific area of what they're doing, they're going to get burnt out because they don't feel effective at, in this case, to go along with the analogy, the game that they're playing. They don't feel effective because they're not using the way that the Lord gifted them to be effective. And when you're more fulfilled, you'll be more effective. When you're more effective, you'll be more fulfilled. And that's why passion is so important, but that's also why you can't just look at your passions. You can't just look at your spiritual gifts. You have to look at all of these different pieces as a whole, because like an athlete, if you're not passionate about the game that you're playing, then you're going to get burnt out and you're not going to want to play anymore.
And on the other side, you may be passionate about the game, but if we don't put you in the right position in the game, you're not going to be effective and you're not going to be fulfilled and passionate about it. So you may love the game, but if you're not using your gifts, then you'll lose passion because you won't be effective. And so there's a lot of things. And to me, it continues to be one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about place is I continue to say it takes the whole person. Not just one element of them, but the whole person. And then when you couple that with listening to people and picking up on where they are passionate, and like somebody may say, oh, I'm passionate about teaching. But what they're really saying is, I'm passionate about in more unstructured ways, talking about things that I have a lot of knowledge in. Don't go make me have to organize my thoughts to speak to 30 people. And if you don't get that right, they may lose the passion for even gaining a lot of insight into a subject that they can present in more of the flow of life.
One of the things that I love about our trainings that we do.
Sorry. One of the things
that I love about the training that we do, and even in the place curriculum, whenever we teach it with smaller groups, when we get to connecting passion with ministry session 4, we ask people to write down what passion means to them. And we both always love that section because people come up with some really good answers for what passion means to them. And a lot of times in our trainings, I'll write some of the definitions down. And I wanted to share some of the things that people have said over the last year about what passion means to them, because I think when you listen to people's real answers about what passion means to them, you consider, is there anything in my life that I'm pursuing that energizes me, that drives me, that motivates me, that I truly love doing? If I have spare time and I'm called to serve the Lord, I'm called to serve his people, do I enjoy it? Am I passionate about it? And if you are pursuing something that you were passionate about, how much more motivated and excited would you be to give your time there if you could describe it through some of these different descriptions? One person said, passion is a desire to do something even when the odds are against you and there are obstacles against you. Someone else said, the burning desire to pursue a goal to the journey's conclusion. Someone else said, something that I love and doing it is my reward. Another person said, an overwhelming desire to do something with zeal and vigor. So it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. I'm motivated to do it, but when I get there, I'm energized, I'm passionate.
Go ahead. I want to bring up something in the workbook that I do with it.
There was a couple more definitions. This person said the heart's desire for the pursuit of something that leads to action. So it's desire that propels you to take action. Someone else said, it's what I love to do. It makes me feel closer to my creator. I loved that part where it said, when I do something I'm passionate about, I feel closer to my creator. So it could be if you love going on hikes, you love chasing sunsets, it makes you feel closer to your creator because you're in creation. But if you love teaching God's word and watching the light bulb go off in people's mind when you articulate something to them because you're getting to communicate with them, that can also be something that makes you feel closer to your creator when you're using your gifts that he gave you, but you're also using it with someone or with a group of people and in a place that you're also passionate about helping them. So the rest of their definition, it's what I love to do. It makes me feel closer to my creator. It makes me think. It makes me get up in the morning. And the last one, something you think about a lot. When you think about it, you can't wait to do it. And when you do it, all your focus is on what you're doing.
You know, normally, because we keep, again, the training small, we have everybody go. And it's really cool today because Seth, who does all of our videos for us, he recorded some of what they said. But as you know, Mary, they write in the workbook what their definition of it is. And you know how I'm always so intentional about sign your name? And they sign their name down there. And I always say, why do I want you to sign your name? Because I want you to ask yourself, where you give your time and your attention, you're serving, are you living out what you put down? Not every single iota of tasks that you do, but for the most part, are you living that out? Because if you're not, you will lose your passion. And that's what this whole episode is about being able to keep your passion by knowing the where and also the how through your gifting, and other parts of your place profile will guide you so that you won't lose your passion. You'll know where your where is. And I love the way you say it a lot. You'll know what your yes is and what your no is, and you will be very confident in knowing what the yes is and what your no is if you know where to give your time to. Not just how, but where. So as we come to the end, hopefully we're going to have this in our link for people to take the assessment, because we do believe that taking the place assessment is a good starting point. So you want to close us out today?
Yes, as we wrap up our conversation, I'm going to share a verse that you share with people a lot that I think tells more of the why to why does this matter? Why does it matter that I'm serving other than just being obedient? Because I think a lot of our conversation, it assumes people listening already have an existing desire, but they don't have clear direction. And I think this verse tells the why, or might propel you towards that desire. Matthew 16:25, for those who want to save their life will lose it. Those who lose their life for my sake will find it. The way you paraphrase it, as long as I can remember, is that you find your life as you give it away. The why behind all of this, the why behind understanding your gifting is, for one, to serve the Lord, to obey his commands, to glorify him, and to serve his people. But there's also a promise in scripture that you will find your life as you give it away. There is an abundant life that is promised for the Christian. It doesn't eliminate hardship. It doesn't promise that your circumstances will always be good, but it does promise that you can experience an abundant life on this side of heaven when you give your life away for him and for his kingdom, for his people, and for his church. And sometimes it's hard to know where to start with that. It's hard to know where to give your life away, especially when in this culture and day and age, we only have a limited amount of time, it seems, to give. You always tell people that one of the most valuable things that you can give to someone is your time. Your time is precious, and we understand that. We acknowledge that. So if you're going to give your time, and if you can find your life as you start to give your life away, give your time away for kingdom purposes, for eternal purposes, we want it to be meaningful. We want it to motivate you. We want it to drive you. We want you to be passionate about it. And we believe, as personal attestments to our life and personal testimonies of so many other people, that when you find your place in life and in ministry, you will find that abundant life. You will find that life as you give it away. And so we hope that by diving more into how the Lord has wired you, how he's gifted you, by taking the place assessment and getting some more intentional, detailed reflection on that, you can begin to find that abundant life. You can find your life as you give it away for the Lord, because you have found the place that he has designed you for in life and in ministry. Thank you all again for joining us this week, and we hope to see you back next week.